I'm Idiotech, and today I want to talk to you about a game called Expand. So this game came out today on Steam. It costs $4.72 right now. It's on a 20% discount. Usually it costs about $6. So, before we get started, I know the person who made this game. I've talked to him a number of times. We're kind of acquaintances. He's a member of the Australian indie game development scene, and I've tested this game a few times and provided my feedback. If you think that's somehow going to influence my opinion, feel free to tune out now. For the rest of you, let's check out the game. Also, I just want to add that the developer is fully aware that I can't pull punches, so to speak, and that I'm going to be honest in my criticism of this game. He was completely okay with that, so let's get into it. The first thing I want to show you is the options menu. There's two reasons for this. One, I like the way it's presented, although I'm not sure it's the most practical presentation style in the world, but I do like the way it's presented. And then secondarily, it has some options, unlike most 2D indie games, which I kind of appreciate. So, you can see here, we have anti-aliasing. Amazing! It's a great thing to see in an indie game, especially a 2D indie game. We have MSAA, FXAA, I think a downscaling as well. There's several types. We've got display choice, so if you've got multiple monitors, you can pick which monitor you want to play on, etc, etc. Really cool to see. I commend it. Thank you very much, indie developers. Yay. So I just wanted to show that off because I think it's cool. In terms of practical usage, I think this could get annoying if you just want to quickly change some options, although I really haven't wanted too much while playing the game, but, you know, I think it's nice. I think the way it's presented is kind of cute and cool, so I just wanted to show that to you. So, I'm going to jump into a new game. Now, I have actually played quite a lot of this game, although it won't be reflected in my save files, and the reason for that is because I had to delete the game and, as a result, my saves, but I have completed the first two sort of portions of the game. Now, you'll start to be getting an idea for the presentation style of this game, and I really like the way this game's presented. I think it's incredibly creative and interesting, and I've never seen it done before. And it works well with the name, which is Expand, and as you'll see, levels expand and contract as you pass through them, and I really like it. I love the presentation style, I think it's excellent, I think it's creative. I have not seen a game do this before, and when I saw it several years ago now, I released my game maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and Chris, the guy who makes this game, was developing it then as a side project. He wasn't taking it seriously. And then later on decided to, you know, really invest in it and put the time in required to make the full game, and now it's out. So I'm kind of happy and excited to be able to show this to you and check it out and see what it's like. I mean, as I've said, I've already played the first 2 sections of the game, so I do have an opinion. I'm not just jumping into this fresh. I don't really like to do that in my videos. I like to know what I'm talking about. So, as you can see, against the tide. So we're starting to be introduced to some mechanics here. So we just have to avoid these blocks, and they won't kill us if we touch them, but I'll just show you actually, for example, if we just let them push us into the black, oh no, in this case, no. So we're just learning the mechanic. But if you let them crush you, so to speak, then you will die, and it will reset you to a previous checkpoint. Now, the checkpoint system, I may as well talk about that now, as soon as I've just brought it up, is reasonably fair. Sometimes it does become frustrating. It puts you back a little further than I would like in some instances. And there is some inconsistency, I think, in terms of difficulty. There are certain areas that are a lot more difficult than others, and it doesn't there we go, I just died. It doesn't always flow in a sort of natural progression that you might expect, like, you know, easy through to difficult. It's sort of sometimes more difficult and then easy again and then difficult again and easy again. But for the most part, the level design in this game is actually really cool, very interesting, and I have to commend Chris, because what you're working with here is basically concentric circles. And to make level design interesting for several hours with the same thing over and over and over again is kind of difficult, honestly. And I think it's, you know, to be commended that he managed to achieve that, because in my time playing this, I think I've got about 3 hours in the game. I've not once felt like the level designs was stale or boring or repetitive in any way. And this is the early stage of the game, so you're not really going to be experiencing most of the mechanics this game has to offer right now, but it does continually reinvent itself, and I think that's awesome, to be honest, and should be commended. So we're just got to progress through here. I'm just showing you this just to give you some idea of the early stages, the tutorialization, but also so I can get to the next area, which illustrates the core mechanic of the game. So the first thing I guess to talk about here is presentation, and as I've said, I like it. I think it's cool, I think it's innovative, I think it's new and fresh and unique, and I like it. It's artistic, you know? It's one of those indie games from several years ago that used to come out. They don't so much these days. Now we get a lot of shovelware, but they used to come out and someone was trying to do something a little different, present something in a different way, make you think differently, and, you know, be a little bit more creative and innovative. And that's what this game does. It is that game. It's an indie game that maybe should have released a couple of years ago, if I'm honest. And that's something I'd like to talk about, frankly, as we get into this, and I share my opinions on this game, because I think that this game is a nice game. It doesn't have extreme mechanical depth. It doesn't have amazing production values, although the presentation I think is really creative and cool. You know, it's not going to blow anyone away, right? The music is lovely. It's really nice, soft piano music. It keeps you calm when sometimes you might be quite frustrated. But these types of games, these creative, sort of artistic games, used to come out a lot more on Steam back in the day, 2-3 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago, when there were less games and Steam was a curated platform and not everyone could get their game on the platform. And people used to be interested in that because it was different. You know, it was new. It was something that people hadn't seen before. And this game has been in development for, I think, 4 to 5 years, if I'm not wrong. And so I kind of feel like it came out at the wrong time, really, because I'm not entirely convinced that the audience today on platforms like Steam is paying attention to indie games anymore. And I think that's kind of sad, to be honest, because indie games are where innovation happens, you know? They don't get everything right. They can't get everything right. In this case, it's one guy. In my case, it was 2 guys. We can't get everything right, but we try something new and different and innovative. And I'm always going to be a supporter of indie developers, because I come from that scene. It's who I am. But this kind of game, you know, 2-3 years ago, I think people would have been a lot more interested in this than they are today. And I think that's a shame. And that's due to Unity asset stores, people pushing out shovelwares, people making clones of games over and over and over and over again, you know, trends such as the survival genre being the only thing from indies that people are interested in anymore, shit like that. The market has changed, quite frankly, and I feel that this game is a little bit late to the market, sadly. And I hope it does well, but I do have some suspicions that it may not do all that well for the developer, and I think that's a shame, because it's innovative, it's interesting, it's new, it's fresh. I've never played anything like this before, and while not the most mechanically deep game ever made, I think it's cool. And for the price, $5, you know? When I first got this key, right, when he gave me the key, it was quite late at night. I was actually in bed. I think I'd gone to bed, and he messaged me on Facebook and was like, yo, are you interested in covering it? And I was like, yes, I am. So he gave me a key. Oh shit, I'm gonna actually die if I don't pay attention for a second. So he gave me a key, and then I wasn't able to sleep, and so I got out of bed and I thought, fuck it, I'll just play this game. I'll check it out, see what it's like. And it was really chill, man. It's like, because of the music and the way it plays, it's just this natural flowing progression. It was just a relaxing and nice experience, and that's the word I would use to describe this game. It's nice. You know, it's not the most mechanically deep game in the world. It doesn't have the best presentation in the world. It doesn't have the best production values. But it's a nice thing to play. It's nice. It's just chill. You know, you've got a couple of hours to kill. At the end of a day, you want to relax, take it easy. You don't feel like playing Battlefield and getting all amped up. You know, maybe check it out. I kind of like it, man. All right, so this is cool. So find the missing pieces. This is the goal of the game. You have to find these 4 missing pieces. And you do that, and this is awesome. I love the way this is done. The way that the level contracts as you zoom in and expands as you zoom in and out. I really like the way that's done. It's cool. I have no idea how he did that. It's really cool. So these 4 areas here, you'll see these 4 different directions we can go. They're the 4 directions of the puzzle pieces. But in order to actually get to the level, so we can collect the puzzle piece and actually do all the mechanics required to get to the puzzle piece, we have to solve a sort of environmental puzzle. And initially I was a little bit confused because I didn't expect environmental puzzle solving in this game. I expected, you know, navigation maze-like mechanics. And you'll see here, in order to actually get to the first level, I have to sort of cross this barrier of puzzle solving. I kind of like that. It's a nice extra added thing to the game to keep it fresh, to make it not feel like the same thing over and over again. But it also kind of caught me off guard because I wasn't really expecting it, and I was a bit lost initially trying to solve some of these puzzles. Some of them are quite difficult. So what we do is we progress through here, and once we get into this room, it unlocks this area. And then we move to the next section. And I will say about these little sections here, they're not particularly exciting. They're interesting. Once I knew that I was having to solve puzzles, it was cool. Like, it's intellectually quite satisfying to solve them, but I'd feel that it maybe detracts from the pacing a touch, because you have to go through this sort of barrier before you can actually get into the level and progress. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm rotating the various sections of the level, and what I need to do is rotate it this direction. And so now when I go back to the first part of this stage, I'll actually be able to enter the level, so to speak. And I wanted to demonstrate that to you because you have to do that 4 times. And there's different, obviously it's presented in different ways, but it is a part of the game, and I wanted to demonstrate that to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of the first level, just to show you some of the mechanics, because there are some new mechanics that are added. And then I'll wrap up and give you my overall thoughts and feelings on the game. Now, at this point, you know, having watched me play this for a short period of time, whether or not this is the kind of game that interests you. And I am fully aware that this is not a game that will appeal to everyone. It does not have mass appeal. It is an innovative and interesting little art game, and it's not going to appeal to everyone. And you know who you are, you know? If you've seen this and you think, you know, that looks cool and interesting, so you can see now I've accessed this new area, then I really suggest you try it, because it's not expensive. It's quite an enjoyable experience if you're looking for a relaxing chill time and a couple of hours to kill. But, you know, you'll know if you're the kind of gamer who's interested in these types of games. And, you know, I assume a lot of you probably aren't. And I think that sucks, to be honest, I do. So you can see here we've unlocked the first area, and it's called Peril. And I think that sucks. I do, because I think games like this get buried, man. I think there's something interesting here, you know? It's an attempt to do something new and different. And as I said, you know, with all the shovelware these days, games like this just don't get the attention they deserve, and I think this game does deserve some. And I'm fearful that it won't get it, because I've seen so many games come out in the past couple of months since I've been doing this YouTube thing that really deserved attention. I didn't have time to cover them, other channels weren't covering them, they weren't getting enough, you know, attention from people, and it sucks. It does, because people invest a lot of fucking time making these games. I don't think a lot of average gamers really understand how hard it is to make a video game. It is incredibly difficult. It's one of the hardest things I've done in my life, and I've been through some shit. And it's really challenging. It takes years and years of work and polish and effort. And these days, indie developers are rewarded with like a couple of thousand sales. And that's horrible, honestly. When you've invested years of your life into something and you don't get that much of a return, it's crushing. It really is. Now, I didn't have that experience because I released my game several years ago in the very early stages of indie game development on Steam, and so my game was actually very successful. But that was purely because of the fact that it was new and it was interesting to people. People were interested in indie games back then because it wasn't oversaturated, and now it is. So while I love this game in a lot of ways, and I think it's cool and it offers a lot of innovation, I do fear that it won't do particularly well, as a lot of other indie games haven't done recently, and it's a shame, you know? If you don't make a game that fits into a trend, that isn't a survival game, that isn't this, isn't that, and you try and go out of your way to do something different, you're not always successful, and that's the harsh truth and reality of indie game development. So, I'll stop banging on about my political points and my views on indie game development and actually talk about this game. So as you can see, these red blocks, I should have been talking about those and I went off on a tangent. These red blocks will kill you. If I touch this red stuff, I'm dead, and I get reset to the previous checkpoint. So this gets introduced, and this will be presented to you in a number of ways. It will be presented either with things chasing you, things killing you, not being able to touch walls, objects like pushing you around into them, you know. It's actually presented in a lot of very interesting and unique ways. I think the overall level design is fresh. It keeps things interesting, and it's surprising. As I said, I find that really commendable. The fact that such a simple idea is able to be done over and over again and not really get stale. So I'm going to stop here and just give you my final thoughts on the game. First up, presentation. As I've said, I think it's excellent, I think it's innovative, I think it's new and interesting, and I think it's done well. I really like the way it's handled. Music and sound and stuff, good. There's no actual sound effects, but the music is really lovely. You would have heard it in the intro, you will hear it in the outro of this video. I think it's really well done, it suits it well, and it mitigates some of the frustration you experience during the later levels when things start getting a little bit more challenging. It keeps you calm and relaxed. I like that. In terms of mechanical depth, it is what it is. You know, it's a maze game. You have to avoid objects, avoid things chasing you. It's not the most complicated mechanical game in the world. But what's there is good, you know? I don't think it's handled poorly. Level design, same thing. I think it's very creative and interesting. And I think for the price, if you're looking for an interesting, innovative, something different indie game, you know, something to kill a couple of hours with, I can thoroughly recommend this to you. But for those of you who are not looking for that experience, obviously this is not worth picking up, and I think most of you can determine for yourself, having watched this video, whether or not this game is something you want to pick up and something you're interested in buying. Anyway, keep an eye out for it. It's, as I said, just under $5. And thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and I will see you guys next time.